Hello, my name is Helen Jennings. I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator based here in the UK, and I'm coming in today to have a bit of a play with you with this Friend Like You stamp set, some Stampin' Right markers and our Stamparatus, because these are a match made in heaven. Now this lovely little stamp set is beautiful because you've got your different two-step stamping that layer up to create beautiful images, and it absolutely is crying out for the colouring direct to stamp technique that you can use your Stampin' Right markers for. So the fact that we need to line stamps up, that we're going to be able to do multiple stamps and be able to colour direct to our stamps with our Stamparatus means that working with the two together is just absolutely the way to go. So let's start by resting that stamp set underneath this plate just here. That gives me a nice flat surface then to work on when I come to be colouring in my images and things. You'll notice I've got a piece of Whisper White card already in my Stamparatus, and this measures 13.9 by 9.5 centimetres, and you'll also notice that I have got some washi tape there that is highlighting the corner that is my starting point with this particular stamp set. Photopolymer stamps do sometimes grab your card as you go to lift your plate and move it a little bit. So it is always useful, particularly when we're having to line stamps up, is to know where your starting point was, so that you can take your cardstock back to that starting point and they will continue to line up. So I've already stamped one little floral image just there, and we're going to go on now and stamp a second one beside it. So I'm going to swing this plate round because this has got the stamp on it. So on this side I've got the stamp with all the greenery and things on. With this side I've got this really odd looking stamp that is actually the flowers and things on the top. So if I turn it round this way, this is where that was lined up to stamp that first image. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lift it out and I'm going to bring it down one notch on my Stamparatus, and obviously this is where our stamp positioning tool leaves the others standing, because you can do that. And now I'm going to add, I've got some garden green here, and one of these particular images on these grasses, it's got some right little nodules on it. So that particular one that's got the nodules on, I'm going to pick out in this garden green. I'm going to possibly just add in a little bit more garden green elsewhere. And then I'm going to stamp that image, and all things being equal, it will rest nicely alongside that first one. That's looking a little bit odd at the moment because we've only partially coloured that green. I'm now going to take some Granny Apple Green, and I'm going to make sure that I pick up all the leaves and the stems that I didn't colour first time round, and it won't matter if it overlaps some of that first colour. That will just give it sort of a bit of a tone on tone effect. But hopefully now we should have a fairly solid grass image. The final thing I'm going to do with this stamp is I'm going to take some pineapple punch, and I'm just going to add a bit of pineapple punch into some of these ends, and then straight away I'm going to scribble that onto a piece of scrap card just to get rid of all that green, so that we don't have a muddy yellow marker. So let's stamp in that yellow. So now you can, when I lift that up and show you in a little bit, you'll be able to see just the slight yellowing of some of those ends. It just adds in another little bit of tone into those greens. So they're not a solid green, you've got a couple of different varieties of green going on in there. We're now going to pick this up, take it out and swing it round. So obviously the first position was where we had it for that first set of flowers, so we need to bring that down a notch as well, and then hopefully that will all line up beautifully with our greenery again. So for these flowers I'm going to do some different colours, and this is where this technique is really brilliant, because if I was to use an ink pad I would be getting all of those flowers the same colour, but I don't want them all the same colour. I want them to be different colours. So this is Mango Melody, and because I haven't cleaned the stamps between times, you do see a bit of shading from some of the other stamps, but that's okay because we're going to be filling those in with colour anyway in a little bit. So we've done a couple of Mango Melodies there. I'm then going to take the pumpkin pie and just add a bit of pumpkin pie in the bottom and a little pumpkin pie on the tips of that flower, just to give it a bit of shading. So now let's come to our next set of flowers, and this is, if we have a look on the stamp set cover, these are the flowers that we're doing here. So we've done these 2 long ones. We're now going to do these 4 little flowers here, and we're going to do those in Highland Heather. And again, this might take a couple of layers to get the intensity of colour that we want. We don't want it to be too dark. But we perhaps want it a little darker than that, so we'll just stamp again. And of course we can do that all the time. We'll keep making sure that we're taking our cardstock back to where it started. Now, I didn't move that in between times, so that is going to have wiggled a little bit. So let's go over that again. Just infill some of that colour. Brilliant. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Melon Mambo and I'm just going to add in some little bits, some little blobs of Melon Mambo into that Highland Heather, just to bring in different colour, different bit more shading. And then with some Flirty Flamingo, we're going to do this final thistle type flower. Oh, just here. So now we have 2 little floral gatherings there, want of a better word. So we could go on and do another one here and another one here. We could have a whole line of those going all the way across the base of the card. But actually I want to just skip a gap and have a final one on this end. So let's, using our magnets, let's hold that down the best we can. And then we're going to turn this around again. So we brought it down 1 notch to make this second one. I'm now going to bring it down a further 1, 2, 3 notches, and if we look, that will bring it to the end pretty well of our card just here. Now you do have to be careful this far down the this side sort of panel bit, you do get a little bit of wobble, so you do want to make sure that you're happy that that is level when you come to stamp it, because obviously we've got more of the plate hanging off the end of the Stamparatus than is actually fixed into the Stamparatus. So that is just something to take note of when we are actually stamping this image. So we'll go back and we'll put in a bit more garden green on those nodular bits. We'll make sure that we're happy that that is sitting flat in there, and we will stamp. Now obviously we've got a little bit more card that we can be holding down for this one. Oh, that's the wrong colour. That would have been interesting, wouldn't it, if we'd have put a specific point on there. So let's come in now and fill in. Let's use this Granny Apple Green. Make sure we've got some colour going down all over. Make sure that we're happy that that is flat in there. And then stamp. And then last but not least, we'll take our pineapple punch. Put some pineapple punch on some of the ends. Scribble that off onto our piece of scrap card to make sure it's coming through nice and yellow and not green. Sorry if I'm wobbling you. And let's stamp those yellow ends. So now we need to do the same with our flowers. We're going to bring it round. We brought it down 1 for our second thing, and now we're going to bring 1, 2, 3 to match up with this greenery just here. Start with our mango melody. Obviously I could have gone completely different colours for these if I'd have wanted to. The only limit is your imagination. So let's bring some mango melody down there, and we'll bring in a second layer of mango melody just to give that a bit more depth of colour. Making sure we're happy that that is sitting straight in the its sort of axes. Now let's have some Highland Heather. Second layer of Highland Heather. That's not a bad colour on there, but I think we'll give it a bit more, just for good measure. And then we'll come in with the melon mambo on those edges. So around the edges of the petals and the base of the flower, just for a bit of added interest. And last but not least on our flowers, let's bring in our flirty flamingo on these thistle type flowers. Lovely. I'm going to take that plate off for now. And we'll bring this round this way, because obviously the really nice, one of the other things about the benefits of the Stamparatus is that you can continue to use it to build up your picture. So you've got your cardstock where you want it. You can now continue to build up your picture, and we've got a lovely little dragonfly just here, or pair of dragonflies just here. So I think they would look quite nice just about there. So having decided that's where they're going to be, let's pick these up with our plate. And I'm going to take some Bermuda Bay. And I'm going to, ooh, that moved slightly, but I think about there will be fine. This stamp, I think, is getting ready to have a bit of a wash. With your photopolymer stamps, if you find that they start to lose their stickiness a little bit, you can run them under the tap and they will regain their stickiness. So run them and give them a good wash, let them air dry, and then they will regain that cling. It's because they pick up dust and embossing powder and all of those sorts of things, and it just means that they lose their stickiness slightly. So in the middle of those bodies of that dragonfly, I've added some Pacific Point, and those are looking rather beautiful and vibrant. So now I've got a greeting here, and I did line this up pretty well earlier. Let's see if we're happy with where that's positioned. I think so. Life is so good with a friend like you. And I'm going to ink this up in Bermuda Bay. Now this particular Bermuda Bay ink pad is falling apart. It's ready to be replaced by a brand new ink pad. But let's lots of ink on there. And give that a good press. And actually I think I'm going to go in a second time just to make that a little bit darker. Beautiful. Let's take that out. So we've created this lovely floral garden with its little flying butterflies and that little bit of a greeting in there. Somewhere I had a card base all ready for this to sit on, and then I moved some things out of the way to make it a better view for the camera, and obviously those are some of the things that got moved out of the way as well. There you are. So I've got a nice Bermuda Bay card base just there. And so I'm just thinking I did have never mind. I think I'm going to get a piece of Pacific Point card to go under there to give that a bit of a matte, just to help that pop out of that background. Let's have a look in my oddments pile. No, that one's not quite big enough. Let's cut down a piece of Pacific Point card. We'll cut it 14.4 by 10. Can come under there like that. I'm actually going to trim this card down slightly so it's not quite so much white at the top. So let's make it 8.5. And we'll do the same with this. Make that 8.5 by 9. And that will sit beautifully then on that Bermuda Bay card base. So that looks much more balanced now that we've taken that top off of there. And then to finish that off, we'll add in some iridescent sequins. So let's get our Tombow and let's glue that on there. Might have got a bit of a flash of his one I tried earlier. That was just testing that they were all lined up and trying colours and things. Now, this card base is obviously a bit shorter than standard, but that's okay, that works quite well on there. And then we'll just add in some of these iridescent sequins. Quite like these sort of bluey coloured ones. They sort of fit quite nicely with those dragonflies, I think. So let's pop those on. So this really lovely stamp set, it does have dies that go with it, which are equally lovely. They are the friendly silhouette dies which coordinate with this stamp set. Currently, at the beginning of May 2020, they are available at a bundle price. You can get both the stamps and the dies at that 10% off. By the time we go into June, the dies will no longer be available at a bundle. There is another die somewhere that has just got little die cut those little dragonflies. It's obviously just slipped off because I was using these this morning in a Facebook Live. But there is little dies to cut those dragonflies as well. But this is just using those stamp sets and using that technique of colouring direct to stamps, using your Stamparatus for the hinged effect as well as for the two-step stamping. Lots of reasons why this little stamp set and your Stamparatus are really good friends and work beautifully together, along with a whole bundle of colours of your Stampin' Right markers. So thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed that little project, and I will be back and see you again another day.